triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of our people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the
Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, and aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of our people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, public servants, youth, the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight, we'll also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 2 p.m. It's 8:39 is the time in the studios of Q95 FM Radio. Struggling a little bit still with this 8:30 time, but we'll see, if something can be worked out about this. It's a long, Monday's a long day. And to be here for 8:30 for a program, that's about the time that I'm getting ready to snuggle up in bed. Good evening to you, Mr. G. Good evening to all the listeners of Q95 FM Radio. Good evening to you, wherever you are, in whatever part of the world that you are tuned in to the program tonight. All the listeners, via whatever platform you choose, we are happy to have you. The viewers, those of you who view on the In the Spotlight radio show page. So if you probably want to move away from radio and you want to see what's going on, then you move to the In the Spotlight radio show page. You search for that, you follow, or you can go to the group by the In the Spotlight radio show and you become a fan. You follow us. We also have our YouTube channel that we would like to encourage you to subscribe to, and it's on the name for Dinah F. Frampton. Our radio listeners, we acknowledged you already. We want to thank you for choosing us tonight, for choosing the In the Spotlight radio show. And we want to acknowledge our supporters, those of you who wish to support us. You can do so via Cash App, $Spotlighters. We also have a mobile banking account. The ID is 767-235-7565. The account number is 1006-9592. And if you just want some clarity on this information, you can always contact me at 767-275-7565. Let us acknowledge Q95 FM Radio, Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, Callaloo House Restaurant, Dominican News Online, our friend Akim Lowe. It was nice to make contact again. Jordan Jerome, friends and supporters, fans, viewers and listeners of the program. It is always a pleasure to be here on a Monday night to do this with you. Tonight is going to be another great night with another great guest on the program. If you are one with a child, probably a student who intends on traveling to the US at some point in time to pursue studies, then you should listen to this program as well here tonight. And as we're talking about studies, let us just make mention and provide an update on our Classroom Ready, Set, Go scholarship. And as I said, I always, want to do, I know that we're doing good things with this program, but I always wanted to do a little more. Of course, sometimes you don't have the capabilities financially to be able to do more because you're just trying to even sustain what you're currently doing, right? And then this lady, who has such a good heart, who has been a really good supporter of the show. If I had 3 like her, at least 5 like her, and David Joseph and a couple of the others, I would have absolutely no worries whatsoever. So she decided, not me. So that was actually her idea, a listener, a fan of the In the Spotlight radio show. She loves to hear the stories. And I'll tell you a little secret, she's not even Dominican.
Wow,
She's not, she's Caribbean, but she's not Dominican. And she really just fell in love with this program. And she said, I want to do something. I want to do something. And she decided she wanted to do a scholarship of $500 to a deserving child in Dominica. And when she said that, I said, of course, let's do it. And so, I did this video and I got this going and so on. And since then, Dr. Polydore, my guest, we've gotten 2 other persons to come on board. The guest of last week, actually, said, I'm giving you $1,000 and it has to go to a child from the Scottsdale community. Yes, he gave his specifics. He's from Scottsdale,
Right.
And he gave his specifics and I said, no problem. And I'll tell you, we've gotten applications from Scottsdale. So a child from Scottsdale is definitely going to benefit from this. And then we had another person come in and say, I will match your donor, your original donor, with $500. I just want to help. I want to get on board and I want to help, right? Then somebody today came to me and said, I'm going to hook up with 1 or 2, a good friend. I'm going to hook up with 1 or 2 friends. I want to help a child. And the person said, I may even want to stretch this through the child's 5 years.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
So, what I want to say before I start off with Dr. Catherine Polydore, my schoolmate and friend, is this. We have received approximately 25 applications so far, right, over the course of the week. These are 25 children who need assistance. For the time being, we're in a position to do 4, it appears. And a few persons, 1 or 2 persons have come and said, I could do some stationery, I could do some, and that's fine. We'll be able to help others as well. But my appeal tonight is that if you're out there and you're viewing or you're listening and you want, you have the extra, and that's it for me, Doc. I do not want anybody to go and force themselves. But if you have a little extra, and you feel that you could help a child in this Classroom Ready, Set, Go scholarship program, I can tell you the original donor, this is very emotional for her. She started, I said to her, I'm sending you the emails, you deal with them, you put them in a spreadsheet, you do whatever, and then when we're ready, we decide whoever we get to assist us in selecting. And she said, for Dinah, this is getting me very emotional. and I'm in a position where I wish I could give to everyone who applies. So the appeal is just for, if you're listening, it does not have to be 500 US. It could be $500 you can give, we'll take it, but it will help a child. Right, Doc? It will help a child.
Definitely.
So that is my appeal tonight. You know, we want, and we've received the funds already from all the donors who have contributed the first 3. We've received their funds, and we're just sitting there waiting for the deadline. The deadline is the 2nd of August, which is next week Tuesday. And then we're just going to take a couple of days because we know the time is short already. Try our best to make the best decision that we can under the circumstances, and to get this money to the children. Initially, our thought was to give vouchers, so vouchers for books, vouchers for uniforms, and so on. But considering the time frame, there's not much time. We're deciding, you know, we're going to give the money this time around. As to what we'll do next year, because we're going to continue next year, God willing. You know, we will determine. But this is just a word to say that if you feel that you can make a contribution, no matter how small it is, you know, feel free to contact me on 275-7565. Send a message via Facebook, whatever the case might be. Let's see if we can help 10 children. How about that? If we can do all, let's see if we can help 10. Yeah? All right. 8:48 is the time in the studios here at Q95 FM Radio. Those of you who are joining us online on Facebook via the In the Spotlight Radio Show page, we are very happy to have you, and we're looking forward to giving you quite a nice program tonight. Keep it locked. We're coming right back after this.
I actually had
In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting the triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight.
And we are back. And just one more thing before we continue. I have some great news. GK, good evening to you, Jordan Jerome. And Jordan Jerome is assisting me with the In the Spotlight TV series that we're doing, the shortened version. And we've done to date 4 videos, shortened versions of the In the Spotlight radio show, including a favorite person of many Dominicans who've been asking. Maybe you can take a wild guess. If you think you know who that person is, you can just pop it up in the comments. But we have this person. It was done. The interview has been done. And hopefully, God willing, we can premiere it this Saturday, 8 p.m. I'm not saying a definite yes, but we're working towards having this done for you so that you can view and enjoy one of your favorite people in Dominica. And we're excited about, you know, premiering our programs soon. That's the ones that are going to air at 8 p.m. on a Saturday. We're doing just a few programs, 5-6 max per series, because, you know, listen, I'm really just doing this because, yeah. And I just want to thank those persons who have come on board with us as well for those shortened versions of the In the Spotlight radio show, specifically for social media. All right, I think it's about time.
Oh,
Yes, it's about time that we say good evening to this lovely lady in the studios. And please, now is not the time to be calling my phone. we're actually going to be conducting an interview now. Send me a WhatsApp message or make contact whichever way you think best, but calling now, I really cannot answer the phone. Good evening to you, my former schoolmate and friend, Dr. Catherine Polydore.
Good evening, Fudina. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure to have you on the program tonight, and I actually bounced up Dr. Polydore at Kempinski last week Sunday.
Last week Sunday.
Yes.
Not Sunday past, Sunday before.
Yes, and she not yesterday Sunday, but Sunday before, and she was having a jolly old time.
Absolutely.
At Kempinski.
As I always do when I visit.
So when you visit, okay. You are. I'm just gonna allow you the opportunity. We're gonna talk about the visit in a while. I'll just come a little closer to the mic, so let's make sure that everyone is hearing you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's relax a little. All right. So let me just allow you the opportunity to say good evening to everyone who's tuned in to the program, whether via Facebook or via radio.
Good evening, everyone. Wherever it is that you're joining us, welcome aboard and thank you for listening.
All right. So Dr. Polydore, you came to Dominica and didn't let me know. Although I always say, when people who think they can make a contribution are visiting, just drop me a line and let me know. But I caught you. It was meant to be.
Well, at this particular time, my visit was meant to just kind of take care of a little bit of things and to predominantly I wanted to kind of support some relatives who had, because I don't know if you're aware of that, but we had quite a few lost in our family over the past 2 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you so much. And I just felt that so hopeless, not being able to come to Dominica prior to that, of course, because of the pandemic, right? So at the first opportunity, because of my job, I could only travel really during the summer. So at the first opportunity that I got, I did come here, and the focus was I have to go to Kempinski, I have to go to Jungle Bay, I have to get some lobster. There were some very specific things, and it wasn't about me, but it was about taking this person that's really, really dear to my heart, and you have heard me talk about her, and many people have heard me refer to her as my aunt or my mom. In fact, when we walk together or down the road, and people ask, is that your daughter? We just say yes. Is that your mom? We just say yes. That's the way it is. Mom, daughter, that's the kind of a relationship that we have. And of course, the person I am referring to is Mrs. Cynthia Morvan, or Ma Morvan as she is known by many who love her students, of course. So that was the main reason for coming here. So that was the primary focus. And then I realized, oh my God, hey, there's an opportunity to do more. Yes. But I wasn't sure if I want to go that route or not, or if I should wait. And I guess I was told you can't wait, and that's why the universe kind of brought us together, yes. And therefore here I am.
Here you are, and I'm so excited that you actually accepted to be on the program here tonight. And anytime we do this program, we do it to the benefit of others. And I know before you leave here tonight, a few will be benefiting from your presence here on the program, especially those who may be thinking about pursuing studies overseas. You may have some information, some guidance to provide to them. Tell me, how has your time been so far? You actually leave tomorrow.
Yes.
So I was lucky to be able to have you. And I have such good guests and potential guests, because there is this one guest. So you are here this evening, and you're leaving tomorrow.
Yep.
There is another person that I want to do that's actually leaving soon after next Monday.
Oh wow, look
yes.
at you.
So I had to try to accommodate the person next week. And that means I had to make one guest on a little uncomfortable. Well, not too much uncomfortable, because the person just said, no problem. You just tell me. I gave the person the date and I said, listen, this is the final move, because I've had that person change one time before, and the person is so accommodating, and I really want to thank him. And when he's actually seated in the seat, I will actually say thank you to him. So, when people are here, I like to use the opportunity to get them on the program, especially if they have important, things to share. It's not that I'm saying that the person on island that I already had scheduled, or the persons, don't have information to share. But it's just that, because just please accommodate me so I can accommodate this person on the program. And, I've had to do that a few times, and the people I've had to do that with, they've been very, very, very accommodating. And so, you can share, let me see, Dr. Polydore's number.
Oh, wow.
We've not even started yet.
Okay.
Yes, but thank you again for being here, and thank you to my guests who are so accommodating in facilitating us tonight. So I was asking, how has your time been in Dominica in terms of your vacation overall?
Overall, I've had an amazing time. I just love coming back because I feel so loved. There's just something about coming home and being home. And even if I have actually, at this point in my life, I have spent most of my life abroad than I have done here. But still, here is always home. So when I'm here, I have life. It gives me life, and I just feel okay, I can go back and I can do what it is that I need to do in order to, I consider what I am doing, kind of making money to live, but also using my talents to really contribute and give back to the world. And I believe that, as you mentioned earlier about your guests I believe that we can all contribute, so they can contribute, so everyone can really contribute something. And I believe that that's kind of a little bit of what I am doing right now, and that's why, some people say, oh, it's not true, you're not shy, but I kind of do not necessarily like the spotlight, which happens to be the name of your show. So, but at the same time, I understand that there are times when you really have to welcome the opportunity, and you have to realize when everything is aligning, so you got to do this. There's a purpose, right? So therefore, I decided to welcome this opportunity, and we'll see if at least one person benefits from my presence here this evening, then I'll consider it a success. But absolutely enjoyed my time here. It was busy though. I actually joked saying that I would need a vacation from my vacation once I get back to the US tomorrow.
How do you feel about your island home, Dominica?
In terms of what? Because I love it. I mean, like I said, I love it. I believe that growing up, we didn't necessarily appreciate, I'm talking about myself, me, Catherine Polydore, didn't fully appreciate everything that was around me in terms of the natural resources and in terms of just the raw beauty of everything. And in fact, talking about the raw beauty of everything, just a few days ago, we had some St. Lucians visiting from St. Lucia, of course, and a friend of ours took us to the Bubble Spa Beach, and they were so appreciative of just that little experience of the hot water in the ocean that one of them said that if they were to stay in Dominica for an extended period of time, right, they would get so much life that they eventually become a toddler. And we laughed about it, but she actually communicated so beautifully exactly what she was experiencing in terms of just the relaxation and the reverberation of energies that she was experiencing while she was in that natural hot water. And I think that we need to sometimes pause for a moment and really just breathe and take a second look at the things that we have available to us freely that we really cannot get anywhere else. And no matter if you spend all the time in the United States, it's just so much different. You hear about freedoms, America being a free country, etc., etc. But really, I haven't experienced the freedom and experience here anywhere else. And I've traveled probably not several countries, but I've traveled a lot across the United States.
So you love the fact that you can just be free in your country.
I love it.
Dominica.
Absolutely.
Yes. Tell us a bit about your Dominican roots. Where are you from? Tell us about the Polydores.
The Polydores. So I actually was born in Wesley. But my life story is a little interesting. I guess it was really non-normative. I was taken to live with my paternal grandmother at a very young age, so I was a toddler. So I basically grew up in Roseau, the Lago area, so that's Kennedy Avenue and the Lago area, what was called before. And so I grew up with my grandmother, and I pretty much became the person who was the head of the household, if you will, because she was kind of elderly. So she was 78, I was about 2 or 3. So you can imagine by the time I was about 7, I was the one I was basically doing most of the things in the household. And so I had to learn a lot of things very early. So back in the days, that's when there was not many households, for example, had indoor plumbing. So I had to wake up in the morning and go and carry water from the standing pipe for various things like taking a bath, for drinking, etc. So we also did not have electricity in the home, so that was something. So I just did not grow up with a lot of the amenities that many took for granted. But at that particular moment, I guess I didn't fully realize the level of poverty that that was surrounding me, because I still remember living a very happy life. Of course there were moments when I'm just like, this sucks, because I have to do a lot of work that I knew that some of my peers did not have. But at the end of the day, when all of the work was done, then we could go outside and play marble holes, keep in the road. And I walked down Kennedy Avenue today, and I was like, Kennedy Avenue looks so small. And I can remember it being big, right? Because the whole neighborhood was my playground, if you will. So so that happened for a while. I attended the preschool. It was Teacher Rose School up Upper Lane, that street there, I think. So I still remember my first day of school with my little metal kit, walking up the road in my little just brown and white uniform. I remember all of that, absolutely. My little brown and white uniform, and going, there. And I remember when I got my first real friend, and I'm going to give her a shout out because she told me that she's let me smile, girl. I'm like, whatever. So Trisha Balthazar moved in. Yeah, she moved in next door to me, and I still remember our first conversation. Trisha, don't worry, I'm not going to say what it was about, but I was only 4 years old, okay? So, and then, so friendship grew. But then they had television, they had like a lot of the I was like, oh, you're rich, okay? So I thought they were rich. So, I was going there all the time. And remember, I said I didn't have a lot of amenities. Right? Going there all the time for things. That. But hey, girl, I was coming by you guys for food because you all had good food, and stuff like that. So what was that about?
I would say it was channel 13 at the time.
Just channel 13. I think that would be correct. Absolutely.
We are on the same age. So
right.
If I remember it was channel 13, then it was channel
13. Yes. Exactly. And I remember having to sell bananas to the tourists. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. I had to sell bananas. Yes.
Ripe bananas?
Ripe bananas. So come and get your bananas. 10 cents for one. Of course. Absolutely. I did that.
Wait. What you used to say?
Well, let me tell you. Come and get your bananas. 10 cents for one. Yes, so it was a good time. I remember Wally Coley being across the road from us, so then we went on, so that was St. Martin's School. I did fairly well in the common entrance exams and securing a scholarship to move on to Convent High School. And I was kind of like a teacher's pet, you know, and I always loved teachers, and I guess somewhat they loved me. I thought it was because they felt sorry for me, you know. Sometimes I had teachers helping me to comb my hair because I had a lot of hair, and my grandmother, she had, the arthritis, you know what they say. So it was kind of difficult for her to help me with my hair and stuff. And my dad is like, no, you're not getting no perm. So, yeah. But so that happened, and then I secured some ones of, again. So I basically, throughout my academic history, I have been able to help support myself through academia, if you will, with, scholarships into high school, scholarship into Civil Call, and then of course, back in 1994, I remember when Dr. Randy Glean, at the time from Midwestern State University, came here on one of his Caribbean tours, and I decided to attend. He had something, I think it's where the I forgot what it's called, but around the Dominican Grammar School area, there was this center there that we attended. Something there. Yes. So I attended that, and I learned about coming to the United States for further education. And I decided, let me give it a try. And so a few months later, I was in the United States, and then the rest of it is history.
All right, but we're going to get to that history in just a while. Sure. And this one is up to you if you feel like, sharing. But you spoke about your dad taking you to live with your paternal grandmother.
Yes.
Where was your mom in the
So, my mom lived in Wesley, so she was still here. I had an older sibling, and I also had one younger sibling. So I am not too sure what the reasons were, but ultimately I was taken to live with my grandmother. Yeah. And I think about this thing sometimes because I remember thinking, oh man, that was a lot messed up, because at one point in time I considered myself somewhat like an orphan, although again I felt like I had many people in my life that were like mother figures. So in that way I felt I had mother figures. But
you miss
at the same time you miss the person that's supposed to be actually your mother, But then when I think about it though, that every decision, so life is made up of multiple decision points, and each decision point take you to multiple potential trajectories. And then if I was still in Wesley, would I have performed academically the way that I performed? And then how academic is linked to so many things in the future. And therefore, would I be here today as Catherine Polydore, PhD? The doctor makes me a little uncomfortable sometimes.
Wait. So let me tell them about that, right? So when I met her and I introduced her, to the person, I said she's a doctor, She looked at me, she said, professor. So I was like, and when she was doing the promo video, I said to her, please say Dr. Catherine Polydore. That is what you are. My girl, you worked hard to get to that PhD. So I know you're not ashamed of your PhD or anything, but never be reluctant to add your right designation before your name.
I know that, I hear that. At the same time, for those who do not know, I think sometimes it comes with a lot of pressure, I believe. Some people get confused about what it means. I'm an expert in a specific area. I'm not an expert of everything. And I wouldn't claim to be, I have people who come to me asking advice about medical things, even if I say I'm not a medical doctor. But somehow they believe that, okay, you may not be a medical doctor, but perhaps you know a little bit more than I do. Perhaps you read those things and now you can kind of interpret for me, that kind of thing. Sometimes I'm willing to do it, but at the same time, I have to be very careful how far I go. So that's why I try to use the doctor title only in my professional setting or environment. In fact, my students call me Dr. P. if they like me, if they don't like me, they give me the whole name, and that's okay too. But yeah, so I actually obtained ultimately my PhD in educational psychology from Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas, and that's after my original, I guess, trip to the United States, if you will, back in 1995, where I pursued a bachelor's degree in chemical technology. And at that particular moment, the dream was to pursue medical school, right? In fact, there were 4 of us who were roommates together back in 1995, and we all have some kind of doctoral degree. Gilda Nesty, hello girl, I hope you're listening. Gilda Nesty went on to become a medical doctor. We have Gina later, who went on to the same thing. We have someone else who left us like probably about a month or so after we came up, but she went on to pursue a medical degree in Cuba. She ultimately received that, and then the person who replaced her, Tabitha Andre, is also a medical doctor. So let me tell you something. I tell that to my students all the time. I said, you know that from this little tiny island of Dominica, I know about 25 people who came up to the US with me back in 1995. That cohort of people in that fall, 1995, I would say about probably about 40% of us have master's degrees or higher, and they're so fascinated by that. I say, you know what? We are a small, tiny island nation, but we are powerful, you know. So
very powerful.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back a little bit so primary school was where?
I went to St. Martin's School.
St. Martin Primary School. Okay. Then you moved on to
Convent High School.
Yes. Is that Sifoko we met?
I don't know.
Did you do
I
Sifoko?
say that people, yes, I did civil call,
Yes.
I did the sciences there again, you know, being on that track, right? So, so I did that, and then I went on to do the sciences again back in Texas at Midwestern State, and then I stayed in the sciences, and then I changed a little bit.
You changed a little bit. So take us back a little bit to your days. You mentioned some good friends who started with you at university level. Take us back to your days of the Convent High School. Share with us what Convent High School was like for you back then.
Well, I felt very privileged to have been able to actually attend Convent High School again, because I saw it as an elite school, you know, that where the smart people go and the people who had some kind of economic advantage actually attend. So I was very privileged. I felt very privileged to attend. And somehow I felt like an imposter of sort. And people have heard me use that word, and they say, like, what do you mean? Well, almost as if I am faking it here. Like, I really do not belong here, and somehow I felt the track, or you know, there was an oversight somewhere, and that's how I got into that space. But I'm really not supposed to be in that space, right? But
Why did you have that feeling?
Because I didn't feel, you know, remember, I didn't have to do with my socioeconomic status, my class, and a few other things. I mean, unfortunately, back in those days, I would say that among my peers, there was a lot of colorism. And for those who do not understand what the term is that idea of, you know, light-skinned people tend to be seen more positively than people who are dark-skinned. And as you can see, I'm a dark-skinned chick, right? So there were things like, I just felt a little out of place, especially when there were individuals, and I'm not going to call names, but you know what I'm talking about, certain members in our society that were seen as the elite class, and I was like the underdog, right? So that's what I felt. Although, and then, you know, being called tab baby, and so I didn't necessarily see myself as beautiful, you know, stuff like that. So there were a lot of issues growing up.
How did you manage? How did you deal with it?
So that's actually a really good question, and I think I have pondered on it over the years, and I believe that my personality traits kind of helped me to cope. I am considered an idealist by those of you who are into personality typology, and I'm an MBTI idealist, and so I am the person that I like to just have harmony. I believe in harmony, I believe in love, and I believe in all that good stuff, you know. So I would reinterpret some of my negative experiences, you know, and just try to just love on people. So I was always affectionate, you know, and so on. So I believe that some of that, the idea of reciprocity, right? When you give out positive energy, some of that positive energy is going to come back to you.
Absolutely.
So even as I say that, I would say that I was somewhat, I don't want to say that I was like the popular girl per se. I wasn't really the popular girl, but I was generally liked, right? Although I was considered annoying by many people. What was annoying about me? I think I probably talked too much. Something like that. I think there was that thing. Or probably I tried to be nice all the time.
Yes.
I remember my friend, and Trisha Balthazar actually told me that, you know, the high school graduating class, probably I would have been voted most likely to become a nun. So, yeah, so you can take whatever you want to think about that. That's kind of what that was, right? And because I had this idea of being nice, you know, and even today some people tell me that, oh, you're still trying to be nice. Well, you know what? It's who I am.
Were you trying to make up for something, or was that you naturally?
You know what, psychologists will tell you, go back into your childhood and evaluate what are the reasons that you do what you do today. And perhaps I feel neglected, rejected, you know, because remember, I actually had two parents, but I lived with neither of them. And I mean, perhaps earlier in my life it wasn't that obvious, but then as I grew up and I could, you know, evaluate and process things, I'm like, okay, why am I here? I'm not over there having this better life. So perhaps that's what it is. I don't know. The point is the combination of all of my experiences make me who I am today. And today I just prefer to have a harmonious environment. I wouldn't say I'll do anything for harmony, but I'll do a lot for harmony. Mm-hmm. So I'm very forgiving. I'm very open to the possibility of other experiences, other explanations for negative experiences. So you know, like you see something, sometimes you have on TV where this person is passing by, like a spouse or something, and they happen to at one particular second see something that if you didn't see the seconds right before, the seconds right after, you might interpret to be something negative, but it really was very innocent, right? So I always think, what if I am just seeing that particular moment where it's negative, but if I'd seen a bigger frame, if you will, of a longer clip of that video, then it would have been innocuous. So therefore, I try to think about things like that. Sometimes I might be seen as not being angry enough when certain things happen in my life, and people think, you should be angrier. I'm mad, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel I don't have this thing to be really, really, really angry. You know, I mean, I can get upset, pretty upset, but I tend to not hold things, you know, and so, and I move on.
You move on.
Yep.
So that was the experience at Convent High School. And anything else you wanted to share there?
So kind of going back to Convent in the sense that, yeah, I felt as an imposter. I feel out of place just because of some of my negative experiences, but there were also positive experiences. I think I mentioned being like a teacher's pet. I love some teachers I felt loved me. I don't know, I might be just what my perception, right? So I got very involved in things. So I played netball, for example. I played netball for 7 years. I played throughout high school, Civocal, and I was selected for the national team. So, and I started actually, I was the inaugural president of the Convent High School Red Cross group. I'm the one who started it. Okay. Right. And then I become involved. I was prefect for St. Anne's House. Yes, St. Anne's, red. And, you know, so I was involved in the Rosa Youth Group. So I was involved in, so every summer I will go on camps, youth camps, and then I teach how I taught summer camp. Then I taught Sunday school from the age of 14. So I was involved in a number of things, and I think that kind of helped me to cope and feel as if I was contributing positively back to society. And that actually remains with me today. I am very involved in my community. I am very involved in my campus community as well back in the United States. And I like to do programming, start initiatives. So as you were speaking about that that scholarship that person started, I actually wanted, I know you're actually saying that because now I might be then marrying myself to the whole thing, but I'll go ahead and risk it, okay? And I really wanted to start a fund. So my dad passed away actually back in 2015, and I would say that we had some unresolved issues, and I was really mad at God because I was just planning on coming to visit him and say, hey Dad, let's make bygones be bygones, and it's okay that you had me leaving my grandmother, that's okay. We are here today. Let's move forward and let's move on.
That was the intention.
That was the intention. But he died about 4 months before I could do that.
This is the second guest who's been on this program and speaking to a similar situation where they had some unresolved issues with a parent and intended on coming to deal with it, and then the parent passed away before. How did you feel about that? That you were not able to...
I was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad at God. I'm just like, wow, why, so couldn't you have just waited a few more months, but at the same time, I believe that my dad knew, because I came and I found out about it. I got my first ticket out. I came here when he took ill at ease, came here, went to the hospital, just be with him, just love on him the best I could. And I study psychology, so I understand the experiences of near death, as you're kind of on the decline. So I know the importance of the sense of touch. Just as important as it is when we're infants, the sense of touch helps us to form those bonds, those attachment bonds with our primary caregiver. They say twice a child, once a man, twice a child, something like that. So similarly, the touch is kind of the last sense to go when we're dying. So I visited him and I massaged him and so on, and he responded to that. I will hold his hands, I will squeeze him, and he will squeeze mine because he was non-verbal, so he wasn't really verbalizing much, but there was more that was going on. And honestly, when he passed, I came because he was sick, so I was only there for like a week or so. And so I hadn't been home for 19 years. It's a whole other long story, but we will just leave it as that. So I had to visit many people. So I went to visit relatives. Everybody wanted to see me. So I went to the hospital that morning and I told him, hey, I'm going up to the country to visit everybody. He said, okay. So he could take things like okay or not or whatever. So, but I was looking at the instruments attached to him, and I felt that the numbers were lower than the day before. So I kind of made a note of that. I was like, okay. So I went to the country, spent whole day in the country, and then I told my cousin the first thing I wanted to do was to take me to the hospital after we'd returned. So I went to the hospital. I was tired too from visiting everybody. So my plan was to just tell my dad, hey, I'll see you in the morning. I'm going home to rest. So I went. I looked at the instruments again, and then everything was even lower, the vitals, oxygen level, and all that stuff, So I told the nurse, hey, those numbers are really low. She said, yeah, he's dying. And I was like, wow, okay. She told me that he might not make it through the night. So I went back to him, like I was only a few feet away. I went back. By that moment, he was already dead. It was like seconds. So I am convinced that he waited all day
to see you.
I am convinced of that. So that's what I'm telling myself anyway, so that I feel better about it.
But you didn't have time to have the conversation. Even if you would not be able to respond verbally, but at least, to have the conversation to say whatever it is.
I told him I love him.
I did get to say that.
I did tell him I love him.
Okay.
Absolutely. I did that.
But you didn't get to clear your heart per se.
And I love him, I forgive you. You see, in those moments, long stories are not important. The idea of words, sometimes feelings, like the grab. There's so much more that is communicated in that grab of the hands. That thing that happens as I believe in all in things like energy and whatever. But that thing of the contact, the skin on skin contact, that's very powerful. And I think it's more important than words at that particular moment, because even then words themselves are inadequate sometimes to communicate what we really feel, but senses could communicate that a little better. And I feel that kind of happened. Me selfishly, I think I would have preferred to be able to have a sit down conversation about it, because I had lots of whys. So today my whys are still unanswered, but these are so many of us have things that we have to just let go, and they remain unresolved, but we have to let go and move on, because what's the point, right? So every time I find myself kind of getting back into that dark place, I just say, it's okay. I think at the end of the day, he knew I loved him, and I just have to live with that.
What were some of the whys that you wanted to ask him, Doc, and have you truly forgiven your father?
Some of the whys are like, why did you have me and my grandmother, and she was the sweetest person, living elsewhere? Because we lived about, no, I'm thinking about it, no, I can walk it. I can say, oh, that's just like about 10, 15 minutes walk. Kenya way to Queensland. Right, so we live in Queensland, Kenya way. So why did you have us living like that? But then at the same time, you yourself enjoyed all of the most modern, at the moment, right, amenities. So that's probably the biggest one. Maybe he wasn't comfortable raising a girl child. So I'm making reasons for him, and I guess
you can only speculate.
Perhaps live with that reason, although sometimes you kind of, you don't get to choose. Hey, I'm a parent, I can only be a parent to my same gender child, right? Parenting is parenting. But that's my biggest thing. Why? Because I feel.
Have you truly forgiven?
That's a good question, and then honestly, I have to think about it. I think I have.
Okay.
But there's still some hurt. So the question is, can there still be hurt if there has been forgiveness? I'm not sure. Some say that that forgiving is for the forgivee, and it's for the forgiver, not for the forgiving, the person receiving the forgiveness. So forgiving is for me, he's gone obviously. And so it's up to me now to find my healing, right? And how do I heal?
Doc, I'm going to allow you to have a sip of water. We're going to take just a quick break. I think you need just a little moment. And we're coming right back. This is the In the Spotlight radio show. Tonight we have Dr. Catherine Polydore in studios with us. She has a PhD in education psychology. Do I have it right?
Educational psychology.
Educational psychology. Yes, and she's with us in studios tonight. And I'm quite liking our conversation so far on the program. It is 9:30. We're coming back in just a while.
In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, and aspirations, untold stories.
People have been
Touching
taking
the human and personal side of all people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, public servants, youth, the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight, we'll also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m.
9:32 is the time in the studios of Q95. Good evening to you wherever you are this evening, whatever platform or medium you're using to tune in to us tonight. It is an absolute pleasure. Just doing some communication there with my friend Steve at the Great Old House, trying to alert me that we get dinner, by the way. Compliments, Steve. And do you know Callaloo House? Do you know the Great Old House just opposite Dominic over there? The restaurant? You didn't get to do any of those? Oh my goodness, well, at least tonight. So he's going to send us some dinner. I'm just making contact there because, yes, Shade of Quick Delivery is trying to get us to see if she can collect it and get it here to us. So, Shade, I'm giving you a big up, whether you can do it or not. Quick Delivery should be able to collect that for us because the person who normally collects is at work, so can't help us tonight with that. But let's see what happens. So Doc, let us continue chatting a bit. So Sifokol is where you went to after the convent high school, and what was that like? Because you were moving from an all-girls school now to a school where there were boys.
Yes. That was actually a significant change for me. And that's where I also got a little, I kind of fell off the academic path that I was on. I lose some of my academic rigor, if you will.
Why?
But because part of it, so I lived I don't use the word protected or sheltered life prior to that. I worked a lot to date and things like that, and then going to an all-girls Catholic school like that. There were many things that were instilled within me, I would say, that perhaps had me just being on a certain path, if you will, with regards to individuals of the opposite gender. So Sivokol was this really, just like similar to going to school in the United States, kind of leaving home and going off to college, or a similar moment of exploration, if you will. So being in class with boys and, finding this guy cute and that guy cute.
Come on, there was some.
And we had the hot posse guys, yes. And shout out to those guys from Posse. You know yourselves.
Those posse guys were on
Yes,
fire.
and they knew it too, right? They knew it too.
We had some good-looking guys at
Oh, I don't tell them that.
Most of them I don't see around anyway. I guess most of them probably left, migrated.
So quite a few of them are actually in the US, and they're scattered in certain places, and some of them actually keep in touch with each other, and they have some annual or some kind of reunion in some kind of regularity. I don't know if it's annually or how frequent it is, but I know that many of them keep in touch, and they're all doing really well, and that's the amazing thing. It just makes my heart sing to see how successful many Dominicans are across the globe. But nonetheless, I didn't do as well academically at Sivokol, and then in addition to that, that was coupled with a whole few other things I'm probably not going to go into, with parenting and stuff. It was just a struggle, just not having resources, and some individuals just do not know about. I did not have basic resources. So yes, I got this scholarship to go into Sivokol that allowed me to get, you get your books and certain supplies and stuff. But then once that was exhausted, it was just very difficult to get resources. So I had people giving me resources. It was just something else,
Tough.
So I had some of my first, my first guy I had a crush on, and so on, and so all of those things got intermingled, But ultimately, after Sivokol, I actually came up to the US, right? My mom was kind of now in my life again. I have an older sister who had left for the United States prior to me, and the plan was to send me away to the United States in a similar way as my, I just remembered something. Anyway, as my sister. And So my dad paid for me to go to the United States, and sometimes I'm told that I care too much about what other people think, right? But my story is my story, you know what I mean? And sometimes we try to protect individuals, and I'm not sure why. But the fact is, when I was 19 and my mother wanted me to come up to the United States just to basically go to the US and stay, just overstay the visa, find somebody and get married. That was the plan. And my father told me good riddance, you know, when I left. That was one of the most.
Was it that he was not for that?
No, he sent me away. It's like,
just
go, bye, you know, kind of thing. And that was pretty hurtful. But then, you know, in my head I still had dreams, and I want to go visit US campuses. And I soon realized that my mother wasn't into that, right, per se. But so I went to the United States, and then I decided, you know what, I would go. So I worked a little while, and I actually during that time.
So you did overstay?
No, I didn't. I didn't. No, I stayed my 6 months and I came back.
Smart girl.
I stayed my 6 months and I came back. But during that time, I got to build a relationship with my mother that I did not get, because we lived together, at least for the most part, on weekends, because I worked away from home, then I came back on weekends. So during that time, I got to spend some time with my mother, and I got to know my mother a little bit. So I wasn't just getting secondhand information, because, you know, everybody gives you information that is filtered through their own processes that comes with their own issues and so on. So I spent some time with my mother, and then during that time, I think perhaps a big impetus for me was that my paternal grandmother, the one who raised me, passed away during the 6 months that I was gone. And that really broke me, because I felt like she was the one that did the most for me growing up, and I never got the opportunity to give back to her in any way. And like I said, she was the sweetest, kindest person. She didn't necessarily say I love you per se, but oh my God, did she show it. So for example, she was elderly. She died at 97, right? I was 19. She was 97, so you kind of know what I mean, right? So I basically took care of her for most of my 19-year-old life. And she was kind of senile, you know, forgetting things and thinking I was there and I wasn't there, asking for me and so on. So that was very, very sad. It broke my heart. So anyway, I really wanted to visit schools, and I wasn't able to get the opportunity to visit colleges during that time that I was in the US at first round. So I came back after my 6 months visa was over, and then I decided, so I went to teaching like most of us do, you know. I taught for a while, and then I came to the United States, like the appropriate way, if you will, really living this time as a student, on a student visa, and so on. But to give perks to my father, he actually provided the funding. You see, everything is some kind of privilege, right? There was a privilege. I had the privilege of my father being able to give me the funding for me to go to the United States for that first year. So that happened. So thanks Dad, you know. And then after that, it was a struggle, because thereafter it was a matter of understanding the system, and that's where kind of some of my experience comes in. Understanding the system, understanding what you can do in order for you to pay for school. So in my particular case, we discovered that, me and my boyfriend at the time, we discovered that this particular department would give money to anyone who majored in that particular subject. So guess what? I changed my major. So I was a geology major. I don't know what that is, but I was a geology major for most of my undergraduate life, because that gave me $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever dollars in scholarship, which then meant that my tuition was waived, right? And then it became more manageable, so I could work on campus and afford the rest of it. Or sometimes my scholarship was enough that I didn't even need to pay anything out of pocket. So it was a struggle, and it was a kind of understanding the system and reading the system and maneuvering the system. I probably a little bit of manipulating of the system.
Of course, you
know,
have to.
Yeah, it's all about survival and all about seeing it through. And then, my story is, again, my story is my story, my story is my reality.
And that's your story that you're sharing.
So I got pregnant.
While in school?
While in school, and I had to make the decision, what do I do? Do I come back to Dominica? At that particular moment, I did not have the support, right? Back in Dominica. If I stayed in the US, what was that going to look like? Well, I decided, okay, we're going to just
fight it out.
Yeah, fight it all together, and that's what it is. So, Jelani, baby, if you're there, that's your little story, but you already knew that. So that was my story.
But what was it like? What was it like being in school and being pregnant, having a child? Did you continue school? Did you have to take a break?
You couldn't take a break, right? As an international student, you had to be fully enrolled. It meant taking at least 12 credit hours. And for me, 12 credit hours wasn't enough because you want to finish. It was 12, 15. It meant taking summer classes and so on. And let me tell you what, and I have already, when my son turned 18, I had this long Facebook post because I want to see him to adulthood. I mean, that was so important to me to see my son successfully to adulthood, to 18. And I wrote this thing about all of the people. There were so many people that were instrumental in my success, in our success, like the whole success. It really took an entire village. Remember I told you about this 25 people that came from Dominica that year? There plus a lot of other people that were not from Dominica. You know what I had to do every semester once I knew what classes I was ready, I was going to take that semester. I had to put together a calendar. Okay, I have chemistry from 9 a.m. to 9:15. Okay, Jennifer, can you babysit Jelani for me? Then, okay, and then, so yes, so I had to leave in the morning with, my diaper bag packed up and stuff, with the stroller, and bring my son to the library, and then I had the different people coming in. It was makeshift, right? We all took care of that little boy. And that is how it happened.
Spring, summer, autumn,
that is how it happened. Every semester is a new calendar, is a different set of people. No,
that's incredible.
Child psychologists would say that was my story, and that was my way to survive. I couldn't afford childcare. We weren't going to be able to do that.
And that's not cheap in the US.
Oh my God, talking about that, exactly, not at all. So that is how it happened. It took really a whole village to raise that young man. And then, child psychologists say when you do not have, so too many people probably babysat him, but that was my reality. That was what I had to do to survive. And, no, he's like chill. He's like very chill. Sometimes I say, well, want somebody to chill, right? Because he's just so relaxed and so on. And I think I actually attribute some of his pretty laid back, pretty chill personality to the fact that he just had so many hands that kind of took care of him in the village, if you will. So, and then I didn't know lesson, So when my son was 4, I had a daughter.
She said that I didn't learn a lesson,
Well, I didn't learn. He considered learning. Okay. So apparently I didn't learn a lesson. So yeah, when my son was 4 and I was on my master's degree, another one, and I said, we bought it. Right, so I had my daughter, and I said, okay, I don't know.
And that was,
and then it was a different kind of village this time because I did not have that Caribbean community. I was in a different institution, and in fact, I was the one that kind of started or helped to start a program of bringing some of the Caribbean students from Midwestern states to Texas Tech, which is where I was. Of course, my boyfriend at the time was at that institution before me, and that's kind of why I ended up at that second institution. But we didn't have the kind of village that we had, so it was a little different. But little by little, we kind of made it happen. Supportive faculty. So that's
Because
why.
by then you had 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
Were they still both with you?
So there was a
Boys?
single mother at that time of 2, because at that time I was a single mother of the 2 kids, and I just had to kind of make it work, you know.
Yeah.
So I would
Does that
attribute
mean
that
that probably you and their dad had pathways at some point?
So we ended that pathways when the daughter was 1 and the son was 5.
Oh.
So yeah.
So you had to paddle that canoe
So yeah.
with those 2 babies.
With those 2 babies,
But you made it.
still stay focused, you know, in a way. There were many times I doubted, many times I wanted to quit. I probably mentally quit sometimes too. I mean, it's hard, you know. I cannot deny how challenging it was. But I think ultimately, I think what I had was grit and resilience, and then we make it through. Now, those kind of situations are not without impact on the developing child. So the kids, so traumas are involved in those situations, you know, and so today we are all kind of still trying to see through and figure out some of the traumas that we've experienced because of our circumstances. Would I have done some things differently? Perhaps. But I am okay with where I am today.
Mm-hmm. And of course you would have completed the master's program.
So I completed the master's program, and then I'm like, I'm not done yet. So I went on to get a PhD because I always had a thirst for knowledge. I love learning, and ultimately I wanted to be, but before I wanted to become a medical doctor, but you know, life had a different goals for me. But I love where I am. I think I am uniquely positioned to have impact on more and more people, a different kind of impact. But I believe that education itself is fundamental, right? And that when you receive an education, it is something that no one can take away from you, okay? You could decide to do whatever you want with it, but the point is, you cannot be uneducated. Well, sometimes you need to be uneducated, so I think like, but you cannot, no one can take that education away from you. And knowledge is power. So I believe so much in that, you know, when I found out about the field of educational psychology, which was happenstance, you know, I was working, again, being a hustler, I was working as a graduate assistant in a department. I was recruiting students, and they tell me to put up that shelf. The shelf had a bunch of different things on it. They could pamphlet about different programs. One fell down, I picked it up, I looked at it, it said educational psychology. I said, what's that? Look into it. I didn't think I could get into the program because I was in a very different program, environmental toxicology, which was fascinating. When people tell me, what is something like toxicology, like, whoa, from school, what is that? You know, and I would proceed to tell them how I test rats, I dose them with chemicals, and I see if they develop cancer. I mean, that was fascinating stuff, you know, but at the same time, it's lonely stuff because I am very social and individual, and working in a lab, you know, those who work in a lab, it's very lonely work that you have to be working with the animals and just instruments. You don't have many people working in the same lab together. So, you know, that was that story. So educational psychology became my thing. In fact, I wrote some paper about my journey from toxicology to psychology because there's a nice ring to it. So as an educational psychologist, what I basically do is I study the relationship between teaching and learning in academic environments. Now today,
break it down.
Wow. So today, an academic environment is not the traditional classroom that we typically think about, but as we know, it's virtual spaces as well, right? So that's what I do. I look at the principles of psychology as we typically think about it, so old school psychology, how the brain works, the human mind, and things like motivation and so on. And we say, okay, let us take these things and put them into the context of teaching and learning. And how do we motivate the student who is not motivated to learn? And how do we do this and how do that? And I love it because I actually teach individuals who are what? The next generation of teachers. So I teach teachers, and that's what my children would tell their peers or their classmates when they say, what does your mother do? Well, he teach teachers. It's fascinating. There's a wonderful ring to it. So that's basically what I do. I enjoy doing it. I have done it with some success. You know, not without some challenges. Oh my God, again, you know, the history of the United States, I am not immune to some of the racism that are just so pervasive in US society. And especially when we look at certain environments, so in the academic environment, especially given the physical location of my institution, which is predominantly white, it's rural type of area. So that actually went to Trump. So anyway, many of my students will come into the classroom and I am their first black experience. So they come into the classroom with a lot of stereotypes about black people, right? What they're fed by popular culture, by the media, etc. And they take those stereotypes and they apply them to me. And it doesn't matter how wonderful I think I am, how great other objective measures would say that I am, like, you know, my peers who come to observe me teach will say, oh my God, you have this wonderful thing that you did with this program. Wow, can you teach that to us? Oh, mine, I don't like you. You're black. Oh, I don't like you. I don't like you. You're this, you're that. You're intimidating.
Have you had students leave the classroom because they don't want to be taught by you?
I have.
Have they said mean things to you? Have they said racist things to you?
They don't say things to me, but one of the things that is done in academia is that each instructor towards the end of the academic semester has to be evaluated by their students. This is where the students get to say whatever they want. And we have to then read this thing. And you know, one day I said, you know what, I'm going to just stop reading this thing. I just could stop reading that, you know, like why do I every semester, if I teach 3 classes, I have to read a whole bunch of stuff that students are saying that I do not think are fear or their lies, that sometimes it's just straight up lies, students would say, for whatever reason. So people talk about, you know, America, and I know that many people think that when we are in the United States that we enjoy particular things, privileges, and yes, it is true. It is kind of true, but there are many things. So that's why I just love being home with people that I feel that love me. I don't experience some of the negative things that I experienced back in the United States as a black chick, right? So racism is happens a lot, and some of the other things like microaggressions, where somebody might say, oh, they're like surprised that you are good. Like, why are you surprised I am good? Right? If you just see me as a human being and you know that any human being has the potential to be good, then there should be no surprise about my goodness, right? So little things like that. So it's of course I have become more mature. That's something that I study. I am interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. So I literally have attended hundreds, okay, a little bit exaggeration, but I've attended multiple workshops and seminars and webinars and conferences on these issues because I really want to understand that, so that I can come from a space of understanding when I am interacting, because sometimes I'm the only black person in my classroom. All of my students are white.
The US,
Illinois, just Midwest.
Okay.
So it's just so much. Yes, that's what it is. And you know, so you have the university, which is like more liberal, and then you have you walk across the road and you're in Trump country, you know. So these are some of the realities that we have to face, so that we don't have to in Dominica. So that's why being here is home on so many different levels.
Dr. Catherine Polydore in the Spotlight radio show tonight, and there is still quite a bit to learn from Dr. Polydore. So you've received some awards. Tell us about your experiences at the university where you are right now, and some of the accolades that have been bestowed on you. Yeah, share with us.
All right, so just briefly a background of academia, because I didn't even know, right? I became a professor because, hey, what is going to do the PhD? Right, so I applied for this job as an assistant professor. So that's the first basic level is assistant professor, and then from that you move to associate professor to full professor. Now there's a process called tenure, and tenure is like basically what any professor wants. And the tenure process allows you, after 6 years of probation, you get that designation of tenure, and tenure means that you have your job for life if you want it, right? So you work really hard to get tenure. So at first I didn't think I was going to get tenure because I had gotten some really bad evaluations. I was called. I had this student who, and I will never forget because I cried. I went to my boss's office and just cried and said, "Oh, what should I do?" When the student said, "Oh, I just came from Polydore's class, and I hesitate to call her doctor because she does a disservice to the profession, and I love psychology. Oh yes, she pulled a racist card and she kept us in class until 5 o'clock. What time are we supposed to be kept in class? Because nobody have ever kept us in class till 5 o'clock before. And I promise you that this is not the only person that you're going to hear from."
Did you pull a racist card? What did you do? What happened?
I didn't pull any racist card. The topic was social psychology. We talk about all kinds of things, and one of it is racism and prejudice and so on, And then the issue of the time that I kept the students. I have this strong sense of ethic. When you have a class, they will tell you what time I'm supposed to go for. So it tell me 5 o'clock. I say, "Oh yeah, 5 o'clock." You know what I mean? And then from day one, that student is like, "Okay, why are we staying till 5 o'clock?" I said, "Because that's what it says on my schedule. But if you're good, or if you take a shorter break, I'll probably let you guys at 4:45. So that happened, and it was a formal complaint, if you will, against me in my first summer. So it wasn't even a year yet of me teaching, and so I got that complaint. My boss came and he told me about it. I went and I prepared an apology for the class. It was a weekend class, so it was 5 to 10 p.m. in the evening, and then 8 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, right? Now, so it was every other weekend for 3 weekends, and then the class is finished. So very compressed. So the following weekend, or the next weekend of classes, which was in 2 weekends, the first thing I did was I apologized to the class. I said, "I am sorry, but I felt a strong obligation to follow the schedule that I was given, and if I offended, I didn't mean to offend anyone." A white student, male student, raised hand and say, "You know what, thank you for saying that. I am sorry that happened to you, and I didn't know. It took a lot of courage." The next day, the topic was racism, prejudices, and the idea of snap judgment. And snap judgment is the idea where you make a judgment on somebody just based on certain, say, physical attributes of the individuals, as opposed to direct interactions with that person. And snap judgments are often incorrect and erroneous. So after I shared with so I like to use my personal stories to share, because I think it makes me connect with my students better. So that particular student came up to me during a 10-minute break that we had, and I said, "Do you want to go out in the hallway?" They said, "I am so sorry." I just hugged the student. I said, "Oh, and I hugged the student."
That was it.
And that student now said, that student taught in the prisons with, mostly black males, and they tell me, can you come to my class? So so that basically my students can see a black person in your position. So those kind of things happen.
That's an amazing experience.
So because of that experience and others like it, I had doubt that I would make it to tenure, but I worked really hard. I would ask my students, okay, how am I doing? What can I do differently? Not that I do not believe that I need to change anything. No, I can take recommendations and suggestions that are reasonable without compromising integrity and rigor. So I believe in that, I could be a little bit more forgiving. I could say, okay, I can extend deadlines. I can, take a pause, if you will. So I could take a pause of how my students are doing. So I say, before I start teaching, I would ask, how are you guys doing? And if they say I'm overwhelmed, we're overwhelmed, we have this happen, I say, you know what, let's forget about this assignment that you had for me. Or how about we push an assignment that deadline, back
have to find
things like that. So you cannot just be
this.
very rigid,
yes,
right? Because what's the purpose at the end of the day, right? So the idea of flexibility and what that means in terms of access to your students and the overall student experience. So I kind of did that, and then that's where the awards started to happen. So we are a unionized institution, so that means there's a union, and then the union has certain things embedded in our contract to help us to get meritorious pay, right? So one of the things is called an academic ACO. I don't know what it means, but as a professor, you have 3 different things that you have to do, and teaching is only one of them. So many people don't realize that. Mm-hmm. So we have to teach, we have to do service, university service or professional service, and then we have to do research. You have to conduct research in your content area. Your chemistry people will do chemistry research. As an educational psychologist, I do educational psychology research, right? So I received, and it's kind of competitive, right? You go through a nomination process, you have to gather lots of evidence, and there's a committee of professors that come together, and then they make a selection. So I received that probably 5 or 7 times. It's every other year.
Goodness.
You can only be nominated every other year, right? So I decided in my head that every other year I was gonna get that, so to speak, and then that's that. And then other things kind of followed on that. So I've done mentoring. I've mentored. One of my passions is just I want to be there for our black students, right? Our what they call racial minority students. So I would mentor students who are first generation students, and these are students who are the first in their family to go to college. So research suggests that these individuals come in being at a disadvantage or at risk of not completing because they cannot go and call up mom and dad and say, hey, this happened, what do I do? They don't have that cultural or social capital, if you will. So I stand in as that person that will help them with that capital. I check in on them and how you do it, that don't go to that party, you need to be studying for that math exam, okay, and so on, that kind of thing. Sometimes I go a little further. Sometimes they're hungry. Sometimes it means taking them out to eat, all kinds of things. I tell you what. Sometimes it means there's a lot of division.
At the university level.
Sometimes like socioeconomic differences means that students of particular communities do not have particular experiences. What I love about the academic environment is the number of experiences that we can get to have on campus. For example, we have musicians and bands and artists and various people who come to campus and give us a real performance at a fraction of the cost, because the university actually pays for that. So you make it like $10, or we see what's his name for some people, I'm not that good at those names, but we'll have like famous musicians and stuff coming to campus for a concert. And then I would take, a ballet, for example. Some of our black students, they like ballet. But there's certain things I believe that you need to experience, getting this culture, social capital, so that you could navigate various spaces and you don't have to be just in that one space. So get comfortable with the ballet. What is the ballet about? I'm not the opera yet, but For example, can we go to the opera? So I will buy multiple tickets and I will take students to different experiences, because sometimes something that prevents us from doing that is that you don't have a friend to go with you. So I will be that person that I will say, let's go to that thing. So that helps me to get the Mentor of the Year award, right? So this, don't worry, I sit on topic. I know I go all around the world.
Yes. I'm actually reading some of your stuff here. I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then you're going to just expound on some of them a bit, right? So where are we? Let's see what the awards, right? So Dr. Polydore has received numerous awards for teaching, service, and research, in addition to her work in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion at her institution and the region. During the last University Presidential State of the Budget Address, Dr. Polydore was one of 5 recipients of the inaugural Presidential Distinguished Service Award. This award recognizes extraordinary service to the university well beyond regular duties. Nominations for the award were provided to the university president by the President's Council, and the president selected the award recipients. Tell us about that before I continue.
Boy, that was a big surprise. That was a big surprise for me, and it came on a day when I had a really messed up morning. I was being interviewed for my new job, we'll talk about in a moment, and that interview did not go very well for various reasons. And the provost emailed me the day before. The provost is second in command, right underneath the president, and he said, "Will you be attending the presidential budget thing tomorrow?" I said, yeah, because I'm teaching research methods that day, and its students in my class are higher education students. So yes, I'm taking them to the higher education budget thing, right? So he said, okay. I'm thinking, why is he asking me that question, right? So I told his students, no matter what, that president, he can talk long, and I know because I can talk long too. So I tell them, we leave in at 4:30. Don't matter if that speech still going on. So I say it's 4:26. I say, okay, right? And then the president is like, okay, and no, finally, I would like to do this thing I haven't done before, yada, yada, yada. So I was like, okay. And he said that he's doing these 5, he's going to nominate 5 people, he's going to give us these 5 awards. He'd call 4 names. I say, okay, go, let's get out of here, And I'm like, and finally, Dr. Catherine Polydore, it's time to be recognized. I was like, okay. And then he kind of proceeded to, and that's why I quoted that, because he mentioned about being a leader on campus, a visible leader on campus, because I told him I'm passionate about those things, and I go out and I'm one of those protesters, I am one of those people. One of the things that I started was a diversity conference. So I realized that there needs to be some conversations about equity and inclusion, and people need to learn some of the vocabularies, what is microaggression, how to recognize, how to not do it, and all that stuff. So we need to be trained, in other words. So I said that we need to have a conference that trains faculty, because let me tell you something. One of my students who did research on that discovered that a lot of microaggressions happen inside of the classroom. Like how a student would say something and the teacher just make it pass and stuff like that. So aside the conference, it was very successful. We got like 57 people initially. The next year it went to 120 something, and then we had 200 and something people. And then I decided, it's too small to be just on campus, so I expanded to the region. We had people from Texas, New York, and stuff who joined us last year. So I guess I was recognized for the work in that. In addition to that, I was selected by the provost to sit on a number of committees. Sometimes I say it's that black representation, and then sometimes it becomes very taxing. So you probably heard something called a minority tax, where individuals who are black, because there are like 5 of us on campus, every committee, the 5 of us, are serving on 20 committees because it's just 5 of us and they need everybody, they need us on those committees. So that's basically what it is, that I was selected to serve on multiple different things, both voluntarily and then involuntarily, if you will. And that gave me some visibility on campus. So some people, when they think about who's the diversity person, they might think of Dr. Polydore or Dr. P, as students who like me would call me, and I like the sound of it too. But so that actually led to that award, and I just felt so humbled when I was selected for that. And then the actual trophy or whatever that came with it was a huge thing. It stand out. So when I went to get it from the president, he said, "We want it to matter." So I was like, yeah, apparently it matters, So I'm just really happy to be able to take whatever it is that I am passionate about and just inspire others, but not just inspire, but make a difference.
Let me read a little bit more. Dr. Polydore was recognized for being a highly visible campus leader and effective advocate of EIU's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, including launching the annual RISE conference and recent collaborations with colleagues on the HLC Quality Initiative. She received the award for the Academic Affairs Division, which is comprised of over 600 faculty. Most recently, in April, Dr. Polydore was selected as the College of Education Person of the Year by guess who? The students.
That's what matters the most, yeah. That I talk about humble. I don't know, I don't want to overuse things because these things are not tried to me at all. But when I look at my journey in terms of where students started in the beginning and where they are now, and I discovered who the nominating student was, and sometimes students tell me things that just I think puts me on a level that I do not want to be at, a pedestal. Like, I'm like human, I have so many flaws, you don't really want to know me because I am like so imperfect, but they see me in this light sometimes, and then it means that I have to live up to something that I don't necessarily think I can always live up to. So so when I found out, I received an email actually, and I thought it was a spam or something. So I contacted the editor of the student newsletter and say, "Hey, is that for real?" I'm like, "Yeah," and then they told me I had to go take a pictures, and it was in the newspaper, and I was like, "I guess it's for real." Yes. But it's
and clearly deserving, because I can tell from the conversation that we are having here tonight, where your interests lie, and that you truly look out, especially for the black students at your university, but even the Caucasian students and other nationalities too, because the passion is people. Yes. And helping people, yes. And helping people to be better, yes. And to help them to get out of their circumstances, yes. And so on. So I can pick that up. So I think it was a very deserving award, and even all the other awards that you've received. You said you would mention about your current job that you're in right now, and I also want us to talk about, if you're willing to share, some plans that you have to help Dominica as well. We definitely do not want to end the program without talking about that, sure. And how it is that you can help and what it is that you intend on doing to help. But let us talk about your current role.
So I received the top level. So I went for assistant, associate, and full professor. I am tenured, so I have my job at the institution. So I have my job at that institution for life if I wish to have it. So I'm starting actually on Monday. When I get back, I will be the chair of the department. So that means that I will be the head person in the Department of Counseling and Higher Education at Eastern Illinois University. So my current thank you so much. So that is like the official, that is the big official announcement here, because I haven't made that announcement on Facebook. I was waiting for Monday to do that when I am in my office. you know. But so as chair,
I'm sorry I had to make you pray on that.
so as chair, that puts me in a position. So I believe that when you have power, you have to do something.
Use the power for good.
Use the power for good. So I'm like, okay, if I'm in this position, that means that I can do initiatives, policies, I can do things, right? So I'm like, what can I do? So I really decided to kind of partner up with Dr. Ramli Glean because, you know, I believe why reinvent the wheel? Go to the experts, right, and kind of see what they do and how can you use what they do in order and make it applicable in a particular context. So my department is a department of counseling and higher education. We prepare individuals who would like to go into the field of higher education. So that means if you want to go in and work on, say, at the Dominican State College, and you want to get some better knowledge as to what that environment look like. No, of course, this is the United States, but as we know, increasingly we are moving to kind of emulating the higher education model in the US. So we prepare individuals for that. So my department is a master's degree only department, and we provide students a stipend of about $1,000, right, which waives their tuition, so they only have to pay fees, and then
for international students.
So actually all students, doesn't matter if you're international or domestic, it waives your tuition, right? So international or domestic, and that means you're only left to cover fees, which goes anywhere from about, I think it's about $1,000 a semester. So you get about $1,000 monthly stipend for living, monthly stipend, and obviously it's US dollars. So that's a lot of money for some people. And so that allows you to pay for your expenses. At our particular institution, there's no textbook. There's a minimum textbook fees because you don't have to buy your textbooks. You rent your textbooks. So you pay a certain amount of money per credit hour of classes. So if you have 9, and that's typically what you do as a master's student, 9 credits, I think it's $10 per credit, so like $90. That's your textbook fee, as opposed to paying $20 for a textbook, $30 for a textbook. So it's a fairly decent tuition rate. And then we have built into that program the assistantship that I spoke about, is where you decide on a particular division within the college student affairs area to work in. So a common one is housing. If you want to work in housing, we don't do housing in Dominica at this time. But if you want to look at even counseling students, so you could do student counseling, you want financial aid counseling. If you want to just learn about even the US educational system, so that you could come here and counsel Dominican students about so you could serve as a liaison between Dominica and, say, higher education institutions in the United States. So I think that there is a potential for a partnership to happen, and where we could get a couple of students a year at least coming in to pursue that program at Eastern Illinois University, and then the part of the program is an internship where you select an institution that you do a summer internship with, right? It could be any institution of your choice. It could even be actually in Dominica as well. So I think there's some potential there for that, and it's something that I have long thought about, not specifically in that field, right? It's just that as chair of that department, I think that is something that I have a little bit more ability to make happen. Now, if there's individuals there who are interested in just in any major, right, that we may offer at my institution, this is something that I could also assist with. Even undergraduate programs as well. I actually just finished my position as the Assistant Dean of Honors College at my current institution, where I learned a lot about, working with that particular population of students, those who are highly talented students. So, there's a wealth of opportunities to kind of learn how to, I told you my stories, right, but how you learn the system, how to navigate the system. So for instance, if you excel academically, community, there's the potential to get most of your tuition just paid for, even as an undergraduate student, right? Including housing. This is like the top, only 5 students we give it per year. It's competitive, but we've given it to international students before. So the point is, there are lots of opportunities if you just know about it and if you know how to navigate it. So going back to the idea of cultural capital, many students are at disadvantage because they do not know how to do things. How do you apply for this? How do you apply for that? So these are some of the knowledge, I think, that if we decided to pool our resources together, that we could actually help with sharing and spreading and just kind of creating that cultural capital, that knowledge capital for our Dominican students. Now, even as I sit here, I understand that often we go to the US and then we don't come back. But I believe that that is something, we can probably promise some kind of a going back, to give back, if it's 2 years, 5 years, whatever. And there are multiple ways of actually giving back, right? So those of us who come and take our knowledge and bring it back to mentor others is a way of giving back to our community and to our beautiful country of Dominica. So if anyone is interested in potentially looking at how do I want to get into higher education, meaning like actually working in higher education, or how do I get to pursue this particular degree that I am interested in, my institution is called Eastern Illinois University. We can be found at www.eiu.edu.
And in terms of your support and assistance, does that come directly or will that be in collaboration with the institution in Dominica?
So actually it can be done either way. I haven't explored doing it as directly in collaboration with the institution in Dominica, but that is one of my vision plans. So on my vision plan, I talk about external partners and internal partners. And an external partner would be the Dominica State College, right? Similar to kind of what Dr. Randy Glynn did at Midwestern State University.
How does someone get in contact with you then if they want some information?
So my email is Polydore, CPOLY, D as in dog, ORE @eiu.edu. I'm not on WhatsApp. I am WhatsApp, but I'm going to give up my personal WhatsApp information. But if you send me an email, then we can move on from there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good information there from Dr. Polydore. And Dr. Polydore, we are going to have to start winding down on the program. Yes, 2 hours goes by very quickly, doesn't it? But I love the energy that you brought here tonight. Yes, I love the energy that you brought. I think no one is dozing off on us here tonight at all.
Thank you.
No one is dozing off. So, Dr. Polydore, is there anything of significance, of importance that we should have touched on that we haven't before we wind down?
Well, let me see. I can't think of anything per se. I mean, there are multiple different stories.
Mm-hmm.
I like to talk about just individuals, because I know sometimes we lose hope, right? Mm-hmm. We lose hope because sometimes the future just seems hopeless in the sense of you have a vision, you have a dream, but you cannot see a clear path to how you can attain that dream. But I want to encourage individuals to not give up hope and think about things. I go back to the idea of the village. Without my village, I would not be here today. Mm-hmm. So can you identify key individuals in your environment that could potentially help you? You have to, if you want to learn about something, you have to situate yourself in the environment in which you could absorb that knowledge that you want to learn about. So the idea of how can you identify certain even certain things about your personality and your nature. So perhaps you are an introvert, you don't like to go out. So that means that you have to do certain things against your nature sometimes, because you know that ultimately it will be beneficial. So how can you be intentional about navigating particular spaces, you know, because you know that certain things will happen in those spaces, right? How about creating your loose connections? Somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, because sometimes that idea of 6 degrees of separation among any two individuals. So I believe that, you know, just try to see how you can create a richer and richer network, connect with individuals, use social media intentionally, be careful about what you put out there, because sometimes this thing can come back and bite you. That is just the reality about it. What else? What other words of wisdom?
What I would probably get from you now. So your story is one which started with growing up with your paternal grandma, and then you went through your various experiences, your challenges, the good things that came along your way. You know, you've experienced it, and what I wanted to get from you before we wrap up is, what is the lesson in all of this, and what advice do you have for others as we wrap things up here?
The lesson is that I believe that we are all beautifully crafted to be exactly what we need to be in the world, and what we get out of life is what we put into it, right? That as an individual, we are each agencies of our own lives, and that we actually have some ownership and some autonomy in how we look at a particular situation and how we get out of it. So things, you know, especially now that we are going through some very difficult times, given the compounded impact of the pandemic, and perhaps some larger global political things. I'm talking global political things that might make you feel as if why does anything matter? But I believe that you're beautifully crafted to have an impact in the world, and I think that it's also up to each of us to determine what that particular thing is. What is your purpose in life? And I believe that when one can clearly identify what their purpose is, what that it factor is, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing in this world, then I believe that we can move mountains and be powerful in living a purpose-driven life. And I feel honestly that I am living a purpose-driven life right now.
Thank God for that. And on that note, 29 minutes past 10 o'clock, we wrap it up on the In the Spotlight radio show. We truly want to thank Dr. Polydore for coming here and sharing with us this evening, her inputs, her story, her motivation, all of it we welcome and appreciate. So let me remind those of you who still have an opportunity to send in an application on behalf of a child whom you believe deserves one of our scholarships. The email address is inthespotlight.da@gmail.com. If you feel that you can make a contribution to a child, then we would also welcome that as well. We will be back here next week, Monday, for another In the Spotlight radio show. We want to thank the great old house. Steve, thank you so much for your efforts in getting our food to us tonight. We really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Polydore. Just say good night to everyone.
Good night, guys. One love.
All right. Safe journey back to the other side of the world.
Yeah, Illinois tomorrow.
Yes,
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And please give our love to your children as well. All right, that is it, guys. We will be back here next week, Monday, for another program. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.